This is going to be my reaction, kind of an impromptu film study / commentary on the Ravens re-signing Roquan Smith. Pretty astute, intelligent signing, if you ask me. First of all, credit to Roquan Smith. I don't know this to be true, so you guys feel free to correct me in the comments section. I seem to remember that when we traded for Roquan Smith, hearing that the only two high-level players in the NFL, established veterans, who didn't have agents was Lamar Jackson and Roquan Smith. I may be wrong on that. Maybe there's 10 or 12 of those guys. Maybe they're the only two across the league. I'll be honest with you. I respect guys like that who do things differently. In Lamar's case, it will be very easy for people to say, it hasn't worked. The final paragraph hasn't been written on the 2022 season. It may be on Sunday Night Football, but Roquan Smith is a guy who will have something to say about that. I think he did in Sunday's game against the Bengals, and I think the Ravens did a pretty smart thing by getting him locked up for 5 years. I'm going to let some of the film run of Roquan Smith. It's not really going to be a film study, to be honest with you. I like to show film because I don't feel like my commentary does justice to some of these situations. I know that Josh Hoffman and other guys are going to say, no, we want you to rant solo. Look, I'm going to talk about Roquan Smith and the situation and who he is, at least from what I think I've seen on film. Of course, we were very excited when we acquired him. We knew that there was tremendous physical gifts, speed, tackling ability. You could see that. The timing, the agility, the ability to move side to side and then adjust multiple times in one play like you see here. The motivation, apparently, to get to the football, be hell-bent on getting to the football on every single play, no matter where the ball ended up. But there's more to it than that. From what I've seen of the film of him in his time with the Ravens, he's committed to what he does, committed to his angles, committed to his pursuit, committed to his job. This is a perfect example. He's at the line of scrimmage blitzing, and he's going to end up across the line. I think the line of scrimmage is the 39. Roquan Smith has advanced 4 yards to the 35. The ball is thrown to the running back out into the flats. There is a heat-seeking missile named Roquan Smith that is always in pursuit. I'm not saying that the rest of the guys on the Ravens team do not have great pursuit. What I'm saying is if you've ever been around 11 guys who pursue like Roquan Smith, and I have. I'm not talking about NFL level guys. I'm talking about kids. I'm talking about high school kids that bust their ass no matter where the football is. It was no fun for people to play against our team when we had 11 guys. Number one is that point. Unbelievable pursuit. A side point to that is he's great playing against screens. You're going to see in this film of 35 or 36 plays, 4 incredible plays against screens. I didn't know that he was this great against screens when we acquired him. It's more to it than that, though. His stance, his eyes, his eye discipline, his reaction to things. He's definitive with everything he does. He's declarative. There's very little wasted movement. It's clear to me that there is very real preparation in his film study every week. In his preparation to formations. When you get the end zone angle sometimes, I'm not necessarily going to stop here and show you, but you'll see his face mask turn and look at something pre-snap, and there's no motion. Now, when there's motion, I understand that because he's looking at the motion. Who is it motioning? But sometimes Roquan, everything will be stationary, no motion, and all of a sudden, like about a second and a half or a second before the ball is snapped, he'll turn and look over here at something. And when the ball is snapped, his next move is incredibly definitive. That I'm wrapping together the film study part and him being definitive. In my opinion, he reminds me of some of the old school Ravens players who did incredible film study and kind of like knew where the ball was going. I can't prove that, and neither can you disprove it, but I think you see it sometimes in how definitive he is in his play. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. I'm not going to quote stats to you because I believe it's more than that. With Roquan Smith, especially after this Bengals game, I felt like it's want to. We used to say, do you want to during a given week? Do you want to get to the football? Do you want to tackle their best player? Do you want to walk in their stadium and kick their ass? I think Roquan Smith's answer to all of that is yes. Our kids were supposed to respond with, I'm going to. I'm going to, coach. And then on Friday night when it was game time, it was, I'm here to. Roquan Smith is all of those things. He is one of those guys that wants to during the week of practice. I suspect he is an incredible practice player who's going to, and then when it shows up for game time, he's here too. He's got a desire to get to the football, and not only get to the football, but once he gets there, arrive with attitude and clean people up. There was a little bit of extra contact, I guess, against the Bengals that drew attention from Bengals players, I guess. Bengals fans, obviously, but fans, we often, all of us also often get triggered by things. It surprised me that their players had so much to say about it, because the things that Roquan Smith does right at the end of the play or right as the play has ended are things that the Bengals defense has done for 2 years, and I think that was one of the things that indicated and proved there was such a culture shift in the Bengals defense in 2021. They were legit, and they showed that, all season long, particularly in that Week 7 win over the Ravens. Multiple players would punch at the ball as the play's over. Lamar, Prochet, a couple of other guys were on the ground in that Week 7 game, like the play's over, like this one, and a Bengals player would come over and punch the ball out or try to strip it when the play is over. That's not going to hurt someone. It is cheap shit. I mean, it is. If you want to call the things Roquan Smith was doing cheap shit, then it takes two to tango, and you should look in the mirror, because the first thing normally when you're pointing the finger at someone else is there's normally, 4 or 5 pointing right back at you. I think the Bengals game was about more, though, than just the Bengals and proving a point. Maybe there was some contract negotiations going on during the week. Maybe, I don't know. But in my opinion, Roquan's passion, his leadership during that game this past week against the Bengals, 16 tackles, 12 solo. In my opinion, his motivation was to make up for last week's Steeler game. I do not believe he played very great in the, to be honest with you, in the second Steelers game. I do not. I think he played below his level, and I believe that he came out there against the Bengals with something to prove. I can't prove that myself, obviously. I can't make you believe it, but to me, a great player wants to come out and erase a performance very similar to Marlon Humphrey with his 2021 season, not playing great, not playing to his standard, and then now has come out this year and been lights out. That's my comparison point there. And trying to explain to people why Roquan came out there with such an attitude. I think he was leading the way. I think he was showing leadership for the team, and I wonder if that had an impact on the contract negotiations. Did it have 10% impact? Did it have 20, 25? I'm not sure. I don't know. It may have had any. The Ravens might have already made up their mind. Maybe it was already decided prior to that game. I'm going to talk about something with Roquan that I think is unique. There's the speed, horizontal speed. There's the side to side, coming downhill, the angles, all of those things. I'm going to talk about sphere of influence. And so we'll do this for multiple players. One of the reasons why Ravens fans were so mad about, not drafting a receiver in last year's draft is because you have parts of the field. Let's partition the field up here into roughly, thirds. So you got your outer third, you got your middle third, and this is probably not a perfect, drawing, so forgive me. And then another outer third. So that's the width of the field. We're talking about, horizontal, side to side. Roquan Smith can make plays in all three of those areas. A wide receiver can make plays, who lines up where that receiver is squared off or boxed off, can make plays in that entire box there. They can make plays in the middle box. Could they make plays on the other side of the field, a deep over or something like that where you need time to get across the field? Point is, you have a sphere of influence for a wide receiver, a really talented one, that stretches vertically and stretches horizontally at angles across the field. What did I just draw up? A route tree. Now, you don't do route trees for linebackers. Well, some people do. We did, because we wanted to see the way our guys moved. The sphere of influence for an inside linebacker is different than the sphere of influence for a receiver or for a corner or for an offensive tackle or tight end. I think that Roquan Smith's sphere of influence has a lot of width across the field horizontally and depth, meaning forward and backward. He can make plays this way, at a high level, horizontally, at angles, coming downhill. You saw the interception against the Steelers. If you were to rate his ability to make plays in all of those directions, perhaps the last two that I just drew, those two that I just erased, would be the least impactful in your opinion. I understand that. But if you were to divide it up into 6 different directions, horizontally right, horizontally left, 45 right, 45 left, 45 backwards right, and 45 backwards left, Roquan Smith's got all of them covered. That's rare for an inside linebacker at the NFL level. Now, a lot of NFL linebackers could do that in college. Most of them could do that in high school because of the level of talent they were playing against. Roquan seems to be able to do that in the NFL, and I think he did that Sunday against the Bengals. Look, reality check. He has to play that well for the Ravens to have a chance to win in Cincinnati in the wildcard game. He just does. He's one of those guys who has to play extremely well in order for the Ravens to have a chance to win. Marlon Humphrey's another one. Marcus Williams is another one. At least 2 of our edge defenders is another one. But signing Roquan now in the offseason, whatever, is just a signal that the Ravens want high-level talent. I'm not here to comment like, we need to sign a $20 million receiver. This play gets cut off, by the way. It's like the 3rd time it's happened on NFL.com. It's another example of Queen and Roquan being so smart together. You're not going to get the end of the play. They do this I would say 5 or 6 times already, maybe more, where Queen is going to cross the midline. So the midline exists where the ball is snapped. So you see, I kind of try to draw a line there between the center, the quarterback, and the running back. It's a little off-center, a little crooked, a little canted. But Queen is on the offense's right side of the midline. Roquan's on the left. Ravens have done this. This showed up. Did we use it with Bynes and Queen? I mean, occasionally. Maybe 2 or 3 times last year that I remember. We've done this a lot since Roquan showed up. Queen crossing the midline, so ending up on the opposite side of where he lined up. And it kind of, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't as the offense trying to run the ball. If you're running the ball here, what happens is it gives Roquan a short surface to be able to climb over the top. Basically, exchange it, cross it. And if it's a run to this direction, well, now Queen is already stunting in the direction where the run is. Look, guys, they're doing this because they know it's a run play. And that is all adjustments on the field. This is not a pre-snap call by the defensive coordinator, and I think a lot of this is attributable to Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen's ability to work together. Are they going to re-sign Queen? What are they going to do with his salary? I don't know. All I know is they play well together, and I would like to see them on the field together. Another screen where Roquan, saves a touchdown. Let's call it what it is. Kyle Hamilton doesn't finish the play. Marcus Williams gets blocked. Patrick Queen's angle changes, and he ends up kneeing Kyle Hamilton in the head. I think this is a touchdown. If Roquan Smith isn't there. If it's not a touchdown, then maybe Patrick Queen makes the tackle inside the 5 or something like that. Against screens, he may be the best inside linebacker in the league. I know what some of you may say. Well, Coach, he's already the best inside linebacker in the league. I think it's possible. I don't know that, though, and I don't like to put labels like that. I'm talking about the individual skills that I see. Against screens, he is an eraser. He's a guy who, he saved a touchdown possibly against Jacksonville. He saved a touchdown here. He made some great plays against Cincinnati against screens. You'll see him in a little while. Back to my sphere of influence. As we watch these plays against the Bengals, tell me how wide his sphere of influence is. If you were to use a circle, I guess, my circle that I have there, is his sphere of influence, like that big? Probably bigger, probably larger. He's got a sphere of influence everywhere because of where he lines up, generally as a Mike, but, sometimes as the weak side inside linebacker. Fun player to watch. Glad we got him. Is $20 million too much for an inside linebacker? By the way, there's no such thing as an off-ball linebacker, so don't embarrass yourself and type that. It is a lot of money for an inside linebacker. It certainly is, especially when you're trying to sign Lamar Jackson. I don't know enough about the salary cap, to be honest with you, to know whether this helps or hurts. I suspect that if the Ravens want to get things signed with Roquan, that's somewhat related to Lamar. I'll give you a little bit of conjecture. Both of those guys don't have agents. If the Ravens go out and we are the first organization to really deal with two players like that at the same time, I think that says good things. I really do. I'm not a fan of agents. Roquan Smith and Lamar don't need a middleman. They don't. Some players might. Some players might be married with 2 or 3 kids and have too much time on their hands. Maybe their mom can't be involved like Lamar's is. I don't know who handles Roquan's negotiations. I suspect it's just him. This is a fantastic play. Look at the want to at the end of the play. Some would say this is cheap because it looks like Chase is being brought down already by Kyle Hamilton. I want to get involved in the tackle. I want to finish it off. I'm not going to stand there and watch. You get the end zone angle of it here. Roquan is lined up with Queen up at the line of scrimmage, and we're bailing out because I think we know that it's a screen. I mean, physical, setting a tone. There's other guys standing there watching. Houston knows the play's over. I mean, Houston's played thousands of football plays in the NFL alone. Kyle is slamming Chase to the ground. Roquan wants some. He wants some. We need guys like that. Every defense needs guys like that. The Bengals defense has 3 or 4 or 5 of them. They don't have 3 or 4 or 5 guys with the same tenacity and skills and athletic ability as Roquan, but they've got 4 or 5 guys that are close. That's what makes them so great, man. Just admit it. They're a great defense. Roquan Smith has the same impact for the Ravens. His tackling ability, he will be there. He reminds me of those horrible basketball defenders, if you played a lot of basketball, that you had to deal with. And when you showed up in the gym that night and you were like, oh, geez, I got to play against this dude. I got to try to dribble the ball up court 90 feet, 45, 50 feet, half, just get the ball past half court in 10 seconds. I got to try to dribble the ball up the court against this guy. It's a nightmare. Can someone help me out a little bit here and screen or maybe bring it up once out of every 4 possessions? That's what Roquan Smith reminds me of. A nightmare to deal with. And if you played a lot of basketball and had the ball in your hands to try to handle the ball against really physical, athletic defenders, you know the hell that it puts you in because you're responsible for getting the ball up if you play point guard and getting the ball in people's hands to score. And if you turn the ball over, you don't even give those guys an opportunity. Well, you're coming off the floor. Roquan Smith is a nightmare to deal with. If you ask me, he looks like someone who will not be denied. And he certainly would not be denied in this game against the Bengals. If you're a Bengals fan listening and you don't like the tone of my comments, the Bengals have an opportunity to go out there and shut him up. They have an opportunity Sunday night to go out there and drop 31, 34 points on the Ravens and maybe take advantage of Roquan Smith. They have an opportunity to do that. Roquan Smith also has an opportunity to go out there and set another tone and be physical and show everybody that he's worth $20 million a year. Is he worth $20 million a year as an inside linebacker? I mean, I would say yes, but again, I'm no expert on the salary cap. It's not something that I spend a whole heck of a lot of time on, to be honest with you, because I just try to devote my attention to other things that I feel like I have, some ability to analyze and evaluate and hopefully give you guys information, film study, commentary, whatever. And I don't think that place is salary cap. I think high-level talent is rare to come by. We have at least 3 or 4 on this team. Depending on whether you want to include J.K. Dobbins, it could be 5. But Roquan, Lamar, Ronnie Stanley, Marlon Humphrey. J.K. Dobbins is there as well, if you ask me. But I understand that the rest of the league, the rest of the fan bases across the NFL would not see J.K. Dobbins in the same light just because they probably haven't seen enough snaps to understand how freaking amazing he is. Hopefully we find out Sunday night. Wrapping it up, man, I'm really happy that the Ravens re-signed Roquan Smith. Something in my heart or my brain or both tells me that this is step 1 to getting Lamar signed. I may be wrong in that. I may be way off in that. It seems to me that it's something to solidify how much room we do have. And we know that there's going to be some older players whose salaries come off the books at the end of this year. I'm not going to name them, but they're there. Older players whose salaries are going to come off the books and clear space. I don't think that the Roquan signing means we don't have the money to sign Lamar at all. I thought I saw some reactions to that effect on Twitter when I first loaded up Twitter this afternoon. My first thought, I saw a couple of tweets or posts saying, amazing, we got the signing done. And I was like, did we just re-sign Lamar? That took me by surprise. Had to scroll down a little bit and then see that, it was Roquan, which is still amazing news, but re-signing Lamar or an announcement for Lamar that he was practicing, those are the only 2 things, I guess, that would have been bigger news than these. I mean, I guess in some far-fetched, dreamland somewhere, OBJ signs and then plays to help the Ravens out, but that, certainly is not going to happen. And the only two bigger pieces of news that I could have thought of would have been Lamar signing or it being announced that Lamar was practicing. But of course, they don't practice on Tuesdays. They practice on, Wednesdays because they play the games on Sunday. Appreciate you guys' time. Let me know what you think of some of my thoughts about Roquan Smith and all of the leadership, motivation, want to, the desire, preparation, the sphere of influence idea that I threw out there. I think his is a wider sphere of influence than other inside linebackers. I think he can play multiple gaps, which is a very rare thing. It reminds me in some ways of a three-technique D tackle who can two-gap, so who can play the B gap and play the A gap inside of him, which you just can't quantify that. You just can't understand how important that is. Roquan Smith, if you ask me, has the same impact, except he lines up at inside linebacker. Appreciate you guys' time. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comment section. And then if you really liked it and you think other Ravens fans would enjoy it, please consider sharing a link on social media to help the video get more reach. Appreciate you guys' time.